Hi everyone, welcome to the latest video blog here at Moor Allerton Golf Club. My name's Adam Mathews and I'm the course manager. Seems a while since I last spoke to everybody. Apologies for that, it's purely because we've been so busy, but hope everybody's well and everybody's coping with the current situation and managing to stay safe and healthy. It's been an interesting time from lockdown and obviously closing the golf course. We had to adopt very quickly a different management strategy. The uncertainty of where we were going to be finance-wise and budget-wise, and with the greenkeeping department being the biggest spending budget in the golf club, it was my job to, working closely with Carl Hegarty, our operations director, we quickly had to put a plan together of how we could operate. We did that really successfully. I think I spoke to you before, the three lads that stayed on just worked tirelessly, and in my head I always had a plan that we just wanted to make sure that when we were able to reopen and welcome people back, that we'd done everything we possibly could to make sure the golf course was in the best condition it could be. And from all the feedback and from members and the influx of new members, I think that was quite successful, so that was a big positive for us. Things have moved on a little bit. We've managed to bring in a new member of staff, Alistair Bagnall. He's joined us from Lowlays Golf Club. He's a level 3 qualified greenkeeper. He's been with us a couple of weeks now. He's settling in quite well, so it's great to have Alistair on board. That takes us up to 8, including myself, which is not a bad number. We've not been up there for a while, so the extra 40 hours a week is really starting to pay off. So we'll start by looking at the greens. The feedback's been brilliant. The greens are in really good condition at the minute, and the hard work over the last 4 or 5 years, which I know I've spoken about in previous reports, is really starting to pay off. And the greens have been able to cope with whatever's been thrown at them on a daily basis, which at the minute, who knows what it can be. Over the last couple of months, we've gone from drought conditions in March and April. We were hand watering till early hours in the morning, and we were working on moisture levels constantly through the day, to the last couple of weeks where we've been getting 30-40 mil of rain in a day. As you can see from the stats here, we've sometimes had more rain in the space of a couple of days than we've had in the last couple of months put together. So that's what we're having to deal with from a management perspective. But the greens, other than the slight bit of flooding for half an hour, and they just cope with everything really well. So that's been a huge positive for us. What we tend to do now is what in the department we call maintenance Mondays, and that just means that we tend to try and get our top dressing, verticutting, small maintenance program work done on a Monday if we can, which gives us a good path for the week ahead. We're conscious that with the lockdown, we're trying to push the playing season for as long as we can this year. So the major renovation work that we'd normally look to do through the summer in August, we're going to push to October, weather depending. We're in a position now where we can maybe look to stretch the period of time between renovations. I'm not saying it's not important, because it is, it's vital, but we're in a good place where we can try and stretch that out. So that's great. As part of those maintenance practices, there's a machine we use called the A2G2 that we used to use two or three times a year, tend to be through the winter. As you can see from this video, we've brought them in through the summer this year, so we'll look to utilise that. It's less intrusive while still providing the vital aeration under the soil that we need to keep the roots moving. Looking on to other areas of the course, and again, agronomically, we're in really good shape. We focus a lot on grass quality here. I speak to Joe Herity a lot, who's our playing pro, who travels around the world, and it's been great when he bobs back in for the couple of weeks that he does, and he sends us some nice feedback. And recently he's been saying that the quality of cut out on the course is as good as anywhere as he plays. So that's a real positive for us. We put a lot of time and a lot of work into that. The sward density around the place is really improving. The surrounds, the approaches, and especially the collars, we're doing a lot of work on. We've adopted a different style. We've hand cutting collars now, so that's two strips around each green with a hand mower, which is a little bit more work man hours wise, but again, it's paying off massively through the quality of cut around the greens. Again, we're looking, I spoke again before about trying to bring a tighter cut around the golf course, and as you can see from these images here, that the definition around the place is really starting to stand out, and it's also surviving through tough weather conditions. So that's something that's really pleasing. The bunkers is a huge talking point within most golf clubs, not just ours. We tend to get a lot of flack. They say, "Oh, our bunkers are poor. There's not enough sand. The sand's different to everywhere else." I've touched upon this on other reports, and that's just not true. Getting our staffing levels up to scratch and having an extra 40 hours a week has allowed us to do more work on the bunkers, which is paying off. You can see from this image here, when we get down into some of the problem bunkers, it's purely that the drainage in the bunkers just isn't up to scratch. If you look at the new bunkers that we've built over the last few years, they drain and they work totally different to the others on the golf course. So we've got a plan in place now to carry on rebuilding certain bunkers and definitely replacing the drainage in a lot of them. The tree work carried out through the winter is starting to show really well. Some of the plantations that have been thinned out are really having a good effect on the aesthetics of the golf course and also on disease prevention for us around certain greens. A number of members spoke to me recently about, well, how come you've done all this work, but you've not followed it back up? Well, again, it's purely because of the lockdown and the pandemic. Like I said, working closely with Carl Hegarty, we had to make certain decisions and cutbacks. We've now got back up to scratch with that. We've had a stump grinder in on hire for the last couple of weeks, and we've managed to get back through a lot of these areas to grind the stumps out. Once those stumps are out, as they are now, that allows us to be able to get in with some of the machinery safely to start cutting back and maintaining these areas. And this will be put into our regular maintenance plan over the next couple of months, and you'll see these areas start to improve and the hazard and boundary lines start to be a little bit more prominent. One of the areas that I'm going to show you, that I just want to talk to you about again, was the lack of chemical control now that we have. We've still not got any answers for the worm cast and the suppressants, and I'm just going to go and show you how that affects us on a day-to-day basis.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about in this blog was worm casts. Now, as many people will know, the chemical control that we had that used to suppress worms has been banned, and we've not had this now for 2 years, and the build-up of worms within the soil is getting greater and greater, and unfortunately when we have lots of heavy rain like we've had over the last couple of weeks, it forces a lot of worms to the surface. So on a morning, this is what we are greeted with when we come to cut many of the tees, approaches, and to be honest now they're starting to encroach a lot of the greens. So people who are probably playing later on in the day or in the afternoon will probably find a few worm casts knocking around on greens, and this isn't because we haven't done anything about it during the day, it's just because we cannot suppress them as we used to do. So this is becoming a real problem throughout the industry now, and as you can see here, the lads have to work trebly hard to either clear the surfaces of the worm cast before they cut, or if it's dry we can cut through them, but the soil causes a lot of clogging up between the blades. It blunts the blades, it clogs the rollers, and just becomes a real nightmare and reduces the quality of cut.
I just want to give you an update on where we are with the 14th tee rebuild. This is a fantastic project that, as I spoke about before, I wanted to get done for a while now. We started, the weather last winter pulled us off. We managed to crack back on in the spring this year, and over the last few weeks it's slowed us down a little bit with the heavy weather, but we're in a position now where the tee is really pushing on, and I just want to go down and speak to you about what's gone into that.
I'm just down on the new 14th tee. This tee's been seeded now. Final grade was done last week. Irrigation checks and the sprinkler installation was finished last week, and we managed to get it seeded on Friday last week as well. And with the current conditions, you can just see we've got seed germination in 4 days, which is great. So just water this in now. Try and show you a little bit more about what's gone into the project, because it's not just a case of dumping soil down and grading it out. There's a lot of work goes on underground, mainly the irrigation. So we managed to run the irrigation from the back of the 13th green, and this is what the main valve box looks like. So you've got two separate lines coming into this tee, one for the back tee and one for the two middle tees. These can be controlled remotely and manually. So I've just flicked them on manual this morning to give them a little bit of a drink, and we'll have a system set up now where they'll probably water 2 or 3 minutes every hour just to give the seed the best chance of coming through. The rest of the work around the tee, so there's a bit of peripheral work to do. For instance, these bankings up here, which some lovely foxgloves come through. These will be treated for herbicide, and we're going to look to try and get some wildflower and some natural flower growing on these bankings here. And down the left hand side, it's a job that we'll do this winter. We've got a bit more time. We'll be limbing up all these trees, tidying a few bits up, and making sure that from the back tee the new lake is visible. So while the weather for the last 12 days has not been ideal for the rest of the golf course, we've had a lot of rain, it's been perfect conditions for growing grass. So there we go. Other than the heavy rain that washed out a lot of the seed on some areas, so there's a couple of little bare patches here, the rest of it's come through really strong. And we've actually given the tee its first cut today. So the plan now is to apply a growth regulator to the grass that's coming through, which will just slow it down, and it'll give us a chance to overseed again and leave the next bout of seed to come through for everything to thicken up. But you can start to get a gist now for what the individual tee blocks are going to look like, and yeah, it's looking great. So another couple of weeks for some more grass growth, and then once things have dried out, we've got about probably another day and a half to do some peripheral work, a couple of drains to go in alongside the path and in between the tee housings, a little bit of work on the front lake, some reshaping after it's settled for a couple of weeks.
As part of our ecology and sustainability plan at the golf club, we've done a lot of work on wildflower areas over the last few years. Some of them are really starting to bed in now, and we're getting good yields from them year by year. We've planted a couple of new ones this year. Again, it's trial and error. We'll see what comes up, but a couple, especially down on the 11th and on the 18th, are starting to look really good. They had a slow start to the dry spring, but they're starting to germinate now, and they're starting to look really good. Operation Pollinator is a project run by Syngenta, which is one of our chemical suppliers, and again, they're supporting us in increasing our eco areas across the golf course. The long rough is something that we're really trying to introduce. This started off by trying to reduce the cutting hours in these out of play areas. You know, we spend a lot of time cutting rough, and it's something we really needed to take the pressure off the department, and we started to grow these in over the last couple of years, actually, in areas out of play which people haven't noticed too much. And what I did through the lockdown this year was I started to bring a couple of areas in more into play, just to see how it would look, especially the aesthetics and the style. This has gone really well. We've had a couple of areas that have grown in really nicely. I personally think it really gives the course a bit more character. I know it divides opinion, especially from a playability point of view. I've had a few comments from members which I just want to touch on, mainly about the style of the course. Somebody sent me a message talking about, you know, we're not this and we're not a moorland course, and we're not. Well, actually, we are. When this golf course was designed, as I spoke about many times before, it was designed on an old moorland farmland site. There weren't any trees apart from the 20 or 30 specimens that are out there, and all the trees that are now on the golf course were planted. So when you look at how Trent Jones styled the golf course with the rolling hills and a lot of the undulations that we've got, they were designed to be shown off by long areas of rough. And when the course was seeded, even though it's a heavy ryegrass site, there is a lot of fescue out there, as we've now seen, that's been as we've left it to grow up. Again, this is trial and error. These areas will be cut down in August. They'll be sprayed with chemicals that are designed to thin out the coarser grasses. As we cut and collect these areas over a period of years, again, the coarser grasses will start to die off, and the thinner, finer fescues will take over. So that's the plan for those areas. One thing I'm really excited to be able to announce and talk to you about, I'll go through it briefly now. We'll go through this in more detail as a separate video and meeting to the members. But We've discussed in our strategy plan, drainage is probably the most important thing here at Moor Allerton Golf Club. We really need to make sure that this course is playable 12 months of the year. We've done that with the greens now. We know we have good greens all year round, and a lot of comments from visitors is that our greens are as good as many places in the summer through the winter. So we've come up with a project. We are about to embark on this. We will due to start work first week in August on phase 1. And I'll just show you here, this is the what we call the arterial drainage installation plan for the golf course. And what this is designed to do is install sort of what you'd call the motorway of a drainage system that will give us the ability to then push and run water through the site. We're going to start on one of the big problem areas, which is up around the 19th and 20th greens. We'll be starting on there in the next couple of weeks. But again, I'll outline this project in a bit more detail. Another thing that we will be carrying on with is our mole plough and gravel band drainage. And as you can see here from the mole plough drainage here and how it works, this has been really successful so far. Members have commented how dry the 8th and the 2nd have been over the last couple of weeks, especially through the high intensity periods of rainfall. The work carried out previously on the 14th, 16th and 25th holes has really paid off through the winters. You know, that middle 9 was a total bog 3 or 4 years ago, and it's now standing up to it. So we're going to carry this on in August. Again, we'll be applying gravel banded drainage to the majority of the holes on the golf course. We've secured a big part of the greens budget to put into that, so I'm looking forward to that. So thanks for watching the latest video update. As ever, if any members have got any questions, please do just either drop me an email, or if you see us out on the course, just have a chat. You know, I'm more than happy to speak to people. I hope everybody has a great end to the summer. I'm looking forward to a little bit more normal summer weather so that we can really push on and highlight the course. And let's hope we can have a real successful end to the year. Thanks very much.